viruses through symptoms. We should be tracking viruses through blood tests like PCR. We've learned that with COVID. Extraordinarily helpful. Many universities were able to open and schools were.
No, it wasn't. Because during that time, the flu stopped. Every other virus magically stopped. People that were decapitated on roads were dying with COVID, not of COVID. Now, with it means that it was traced in their blood through these blood tests that she's talking about with the PCR test. There's a difference if you die of COVID. That means you were actually diagnosed with it and then you died. Are we going to do that again now with the hantavirus? The signaling.
Able to open because they provided weekly testing and it really prevented spread. So we know how to deal with these viruses. We just need to move into the 21st century and make testing more widely available to those who need it.
Oh, and then subsection on this again. Sorry. The PCR test. A lot of those tests have found that they actually had chemicals and microfibers that were being put into your body. So they were actually putting mRNA on some of these and all other kinds of things with these quote unquote tests. We're not doing this again. I'm going to tell you that right now. Scarf lady, you're going to prison. I'm not sure how they allowed Dr. Fauci to be absolved of all the criminal activity that he did. But you know what? We're not doing this again. I'm going to tell you that right now.
And I caution people because when we say human to human
we know how to deal with these viruses. But she did say something really, I think is truthful there. That just because they're not symptomatic doesn't mean it can't spread. And right now it seems like they're monitoring for symptoms versus actually doing blood tests and digging in and seeing what's going on with every single person, every single contact trace. It's just isolated home. And we still don't know all of the contact tracing information. They have not publicly made it available. So we're just left to guess. But when you start seeing her come back out into the woodwork, well, you know that there is propaganda going on. Again, will this turn out to be anything? Maybe not. But be sure that all of this is part of the overall pandemic. And we're going to see we definitely will see another pandemic come out, or either this one is going to continue to escalate quietly at first under the radar like COVID, and then you'll start to see the explosion. I want to show you my new.
Yeah, and here's my thing, because they did this before. And remember, all the testing was like, oh my gosh, the test. It was always the test. You never knew if anyone had actually passed away. They didn't count that. They only counted the testings. And these PCR tests can be programmed to test positive for anything. You got to remember, fruit tested positive. Goats tested positive, not just humans. And that happened. Okay, those articles came out and everybody's like, oh no, you're crazy, you're crazy. And then when it all came out, I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Is that what we're doing again? Is that what we're doing again? Now, I wanted to tap into the hantavirus really quickly before we get out of here. And thank you guys again for joining me. And it gave me an outline of the hantavirus and a little bit of background on it. Now, there are two main clinical syndromes. There's the hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, which you will refer to as HFRS. Old strains, mostly in Asia and Europe, affects kidneys, causes bleeding and shock. Now, the Hunter pulmonary syndrome, and I think that's what we're dealing with, the HPS or HCPS, New World strains, America's, causes severe lung edema and heart strain. Fatalities range from less than 1% to less than 15%. For HFRS, 30 to 40% for HPS That's for HFRs. That's that one. And 35 to 40% of HBS in Americas. No specific antiviral treatment or widely available vaccine exists. Care is supportive. Now, here's my thing. How can it be this high and nobody's ever talked about it? It's over 30%. Really? Are you sure? Just saying. Now, in World War II is when we heard about the first field lepers and hemorrhagic fever noted among troops in Europe and Asia. That was 1951 and 1954 during the Korean War. Now, in 1976, the 𝗏𝗏 virus, the prototype old world strain, was isolated from striped field mice, okay, by South Korean researcher 𝗏𝗏. This launched modern hantavirus research. Okay, now discovery in the Americans in 1993 onward. So before 1993, scientists didn't think pathogenic hantaviruses existed in the Western Hemisphere. Now, May 1993, Four Corners outbreak, Arizona, New Mexico, Mexico, and Colorado, Utah. They call those the Four Corners. A cluster of severe unexplained respiratory deaths, mostly among young adults in southwestern U.S., triggered a CDC investigation. The cause was identified as a new virus, right? Censorship virus, SNV, carried by deer mice, okay? Illness onset clustered in spring, summer of 1993 amid a rodent population boom linked to El Nino weather and abundant food. Initial reports, less than 25 to 53 cases by year end, roughly 50% fatality. This was the first recognized HBS outbreak and the discovery of new world hantaviruses causing pulmonary disease. Now, if anybody's like a X-Files nerd, which I am, and that in the movie there's a scene, and you've seen this probably on YouTube or circulating on TikTok, and everybody's like, oh, what's going on? They talk about the hantavirus. And in that scene with Mulder and the gentleman, he talks about why was FEMA sent out to check on these field mice? And he was saying, it's not the hantavirus. And that's what I'm saying. Allegedly, this is more than just the hantavirus. It is a way to self-control us again. Now, we already did this the first time, but they're using the PCR test again, and they're using fear again, just like they did the first time, without any backed or based evidence. I want hardcore evidence, but you're not going to give me that. You're going to give me fear. You're going to put out articles and, oh my goodness, the sky is falling. I'm going to sue everybody this time. We have to. Now, national intelligence began immediately. HPS became nationally notifiable in 1995. Retrospective testing later found unrecognized U.S. cases dating back to at least the 1950s. So it was just passed off. But here's the thing. If you live in an environment where there's rats and mice and droppings, and it gets into the ventilation systems, that's the thing. If you know that you have rodents, squirrels, whatever, rats, and they're living in your ventilation system, yeah, you're going to get this. But that's not viral. That's bacterial. Two different things. But they want to dub everything a virus, like it just be caught. It's not airborne. If it's not airborne, it's not a virus. If you get sick from something, some form of anything, because you've inhaled it, that's when it becomes bacterial, because it's messing with your internal organs and systems. And usually antibiotics usually have to help you through that, right? But we're not talking about that part. It's that part. So in 1995, Andes virus ANDV was identified in Argentina and Chile. It is the only hantavirus known to transmit person to person, okay, via close, prolonged contact with symptomatic individuals' body fluids, okay? Most other strains are strictly rodent to human. Okay, so this Andes virus, so you got to be in, you know what I'm saying, close proximity. Still not airborne. It's still not airborne. That's still bacterial because you actually have to transmit something. That's the difference. Just saying, just putting that out there. Notable outbreaks in 1996, Argentina first documented person-to-person transmission of the antivirus. 2012, Yosemite Park, right? There was a cluster of 10 HBS cases, 3 deaths linked to deer mice in insulated signature